Welcome to Save As Ability, a podcast to educate and inform you about disability employment issues. My name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert.
The top 5 ways to unlock value of people with disabilities in your workforce. That's the topic of today's Save As Ability. It's David D'Arcangelo. Great to be back with you for another episode. Please help us continue to grow the channel by liking, subscribing, sharing. It really does help. And any comments you can make, whatever the case may be, let's get our message out there of employing people with disabilities and access to opportunities for people with disabilities. So last episode, we kind of debunked like some HR concerns or questions or myths. I don't know how you wanted to phrase that, but this is almost a continuation off that, except this is necessarily just devoted to, or not just, but specifically devoted to the HR managers at employers. This is really kind of like the whole workforce type of situation, all right? So what I've done is I've pulled out 5 things that can help you unlock access to opportunities and really get people with disabilities in your organization, included in your organization, because we know the data is clear. This is good for the business case of your organization. It can increase productivity. It can increase your bottom line. I mean, this is the business case is made, okay? The first thing, let's get to the first thing. Cost-effective accommodations. I can't tell you how many leaders I talk to, not just the HR people. Actually, the HR people are often advocating for this. It's the leadership that is unaware, like, oh, how are we going to hire these people with disabilities? I can't pay tens of thousands of dollars to retrofit the whole place. You don't have to do that. All right. Most accommodations from the data we have, 56% cost $0. Okay. And something like 95% of all accommodations cost less than $300. That's from the Job Accommodation Network. They just updated their study that they had done. I think they originally did it in 2018. Now the latest one is 2023. So the large majority of all reasonable accommodations cost little to nothing in the business case. So let's not try to think that that's like some barrier for the employer. It's not, okay? Provide people what they need to be successful, both people with and without disabilities. All right, people with disabilities, maybe they need a little bit something that's not, that you haven't come across before. And that's really like the area that people feel uncomfortable with because they're like, well, we don't know what to do. There's resources out there to be able to show you what to do, whether it's Ask Jan, EarnWorks, all of that. There's plenty of stuff out there for businesses. And further, there's things that you can access that in the public realm as well. There's the disabled tax credit. It's the disabled access credit for barrier removal tax deduction, to put it exactly. There's the work opportunity tax credit. All these things, you can find more at irs.gov, but that should not be a barrier to entry for employers. All right, number 2, simplified compliance and risk management. Oftentimes, there's this fear from leadership that, oh, well, what's going to happen? We're going to get sued, and there's going to be these legal issues, and we don't know what to do, and we don't know how to comply. Eesh. The data that we have here is from the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. They indicate that only 19% of all ADA-related complaints involve an accommodation issue, and it shows that proactive accommodations prevent legal disputes. So it's only 19% of ADA complaints. So that's a small fraction. That fear is like really unwarranted when you think about it. What are we talking about? A small percentage here that if you're a large enough organization, you're going to encounter so many different things that this should be not even on your list of concerns. The data doesn't support it, okay? So people with disabilities aren't trying to get hired to then just sue you. No. It's almost ridiculous to say, but we got to address it because, again, this came up in one of the studies as concerns from leadership. All right. Number 3, again, leadership and a little bit of HR, but sometimes other, depending upon what study you look at. I think this one was from SHRM. It was like about cultural integration. Like, how are we going to make sure, how are we going to have a culture that is supporting these people with disabilities in our workforce? And, the kitchenette isn't at the right height, and I want to hire Jim, but he's in a wheelchair, and how's he going to access that? Like, literally things like that crossed leaders' minds. And it's like, okay, so instead of hiring Jim, we're not even going to consider it. Like, no, like that's, you can integrate people with disabilities on all kinds of level into your workplace relatively easy, creating a culture there. It's, Deloitte has a great report there. They have their 2022, they did an inclusion report that found that companies who actively promote disability inclusion saw a 25% increase in employee engagement and collaboration. If I went to your organization and said, hey, do you want to increase your collaboration and employee engagement by 25%? Who wouldn't raise their hand and say, yeah, I want to do that? Well, a way to do that is include people with disabilities. So let's not go for all these, the fear of the unknown is like the greatest thing here. So we're asking people to not be fearful and to go forward with this. All right. Include people with disabilities. How do you do that? Well, already with your existing culture, you support things like employee resource groups and, because there's people with disabilities there that want to be able to talk about their experiences, to be able to share best practices and what worked, what didn't. There's people who are attached to the disability community one way or the other who would like to be into that employee resource group to find out more and, assimilate themselves to the whole ecosystem, I guess, of people with disabilities in your organization. So, proactively seeking opportunities to engage with people with disabilities. Really, if you do that, that'll get into your company's DNA. And as we saw through the report, the rising tide will lift all ships and your organization will be better and stronger for it. All right, number 4, there is a strong return on investment argument here. There's data that supports this. Specifically, the latest one done was an Accenture report. Accenture data shows that companies outperform their peers with stronger profits and higher retention rates when they include people with disabilities in their organization. We've said this before in many episodes. The business case is there. This, including people with disabilities in your organization, is good for business, okay? This is, there is a rational basis with which to do all these things. We have data supporting this on both sides. This is good for the employees. It's good for the employer. Enough said. All right, 5, the last one. Really, this then says a lot about your organization. When your organization is including people with disabilities, what is that doing for your brand? What is that saying? How is that enhancing your representation as an organization, like your reputation as an organization, rather? What is that saying? It's saying that, hey, we actually care. This has long been a challenge to solve for. We've put efforts in, and you know what? We're getting good results here. That's a good thing. That's a win-win-win. That's nothing to be ashamed of, or, you're not like, exploiting people with disabilities. No, it's the furthest thing from it. You're giving people access to opportunities. And if that helps your organization, that's a good thing. That's capitalism at work. That's really like an awesome thing there. Consumers pay attention. Another data point I have here by the Edelman Trust. 71% of people say that they prefer to support brands that have clear disability inclusion efforts in them. Okay. So again, that's not me, that's the data. So disability employment and including people with disabilities in your organization, it's more than just the right thing to do. It's a strategic advantage for your business. The data supports this. Don't just believe me. Go look up the studies. We'll put them in the description here as we usually do. So you know what our focus here is at Save Visibility, promoting access to opportunities for people with disabilities, for organizations who want to include people with disabilities. So it takes two, the employer and the employee. And then when that works well for both, guess what? Society benefits as well. And we don't have to have people rely on these public benefit programs, which are, that's really not the way to freedom and independence. We've talked about that. It works for some people, but if you can work, if you've got talent, we want to put that to work for America. It's going to benefit the employee. It's going to benefit you as an individual. It's going to benefit the employer. It's going to benefit society. It's a win-win-win when done well. I'm fired up as usual. It's David D'Arcangelo. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you have a great day.
For more information about disability employment issues, please visit our website, disabilityemploymentsolutions.com. The Save As Ability podcast is available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, our YouTube channel at Disability Policy Expert, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment. Save As Ability lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #TheNewRadio. Again, my name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Until next time, thank you. I hope you have a great day.